Help us to use this time wisely, direct us in the path that we should go. May we pray for our students, our teachers, and our faculty of this district. We ask this in Jesus' name. Amen.
Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Item 1.03, roll call and declaration of quorum. Mr. Rousseau.
Darren Damali Turner,
Here.
Jamie Sauer,
Here.
Nico Tasevich, Christy Arborough,
Here.
Michelle Linder,
Here.
Jennifer Shelley,
Here.
Bobby Ingraham, Paul Lemire,
Here.
and Jennifer Sanders.
Here.
Madam President, Chair of the quorum.
Thank you. Item 1.04, approval of the agenda. Make a motion.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none, the motion carries. We'll move on to number 2, superintendent's comments and reports. 2.01. He says this one.
Yes.
Okay, we ready?
Yep, that's good.
Okay, 2.01, discussion and appropriate action in regard to the approval of the 2023-24 Plaquemines Parish Head Start Continuation Grant. Ms. Adele.
I need a motion.
I'll second.
So this is the process of our continuation grant. We write a 5-year grant. And in that 5-year grant, annually we come to you with a continuation grant. There's lots of pieces you can see as we go through them. But the major part of our continuation grant is in this large document that you guys have in front of you. We set goals with our parents and our committees and our teachers. And then we report the success or no success, depending on the year, of said goals, because we have 5 years to achieve those goals. And then we also answer a lot of specific questions about how we set up our program and why we set up that way. And then, of course, the budget questions are in there as well. If you guys have any specific questions or wonderings about that application, I'm here and answer any questions. Well, that was a good long read. Thank you.
Good. Sorry, I'm still trying to get board docs.
So what year is this that we're in on this grant?
This is gonna be our 4th year.
Okay.
Any questions? Any further discussion? Put it to a vote. All in favor, signal by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Hearing none, the motion carries.
Discussion and appropriate action in regard to the approval of the 2023-2024 budget narrative. Ms. Adele.
We need a motion. Make a motion.
I'll second. Jennifer.
Jennifer.
Shelley.
I'll be louder next time. So, they do ask us to have a separate budget narrative. This is for the purposes of the grant as well as our accounting team. It's in the format for the Office of Head Start though, and then we take it apart in our accounting department so that we can object code everything that we need. As you can see, a majority of our budget does go to personnel and benefits, which we are allowed at most 80%, with a leeway up to 85% of the entire budget that can be allocated for personnel and benefits, and we are right at about, we're skirting that 85%. We want to make sure we can get as much of that covered as we can. You'll also notice, just for explanation, in the grant, this money that they give us is only 80% of our budget. The 20% of our budget that matches that is from Plaquemines Parish School Board. It's mandated through the Head Start grant that 20% of it come, and it's called our non-federal share. So you'll notice some documentation on what that is, and then when we get to the cost allocation, you'll see how it's broken down. Obviously, our number one is personnel, and then we kind of go through some of those Head Start standards and use the rest of the budget on those things that we need to make sure that we're doing what we're supposed to for the office of Head Start.
I have a question. I meant to call you today when I looked over it this weekend, but just team assistant.
Yeah.
One of them is paid way lower than the other. So I was
Yes.
just wondering what, I know it's usually by the years or
Yes,
whatever.
so that's only 50% of her salary. So that's why it's noted, so 50% of her salary is paid by, in the non-federal share portion,
Okay,
and 50% of hers is paid with this grant.
okay.
So what happened is, 2 directors prior to me, we had to start implementing inclusion classrooms, and the special ed department said that they would take 50% of a person's salary if we put inclusion classrooms in it, so classes. So 50% of that is non-federal share, 50% we can grant. So it is covered, it's just in a different fund.
And y'all share the individual's time also.
That person is 100% mine.
Oh,
We just give all services in that.
In the classroom.
In that classroom.
That's good. Any further questions?
I do one. So if we decide that we need to open up, our pre-K again, because I'm thinking it's gonna happen because we have a lot of people that had those COVID babies. And they all
They
come
coming?
school,
Yes, bring
this
them.
year. So will we be able to, open up that pre-K?
That would have to be a different funding source, it wouldn't be a
Okay.
Head
I'm just
Start funding
asking,
source.
'cause
Yes, yes.
It's a lot of COVID babies coming.
Yes, so what we did, we always apply for additional funding whenever the State Department has them
Okay.
available, so we have currently, I did the application for LA4 funding, AG funding, Title I, we get from Mr. Kenny if we need it. Mr. Kenny also allots for EEF funding to be used towards 4-year-olds as well, so
And not just for us, I'm just saying like,
No,
it's a
just
lot of babies.
district-wide, we
Yeah.
are gonna probably have an influx.
Yeah. Okay.
So we apply for lots of money.
Thank you.
Any further questions or discussion? We'll call for a vote. All in favor, signal by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none, the motion carries.
Point 03, discussion and appropriate action in regard to the approval of the cost allocation.
I'll make a motion.
Thank you.
I'll second.
So this is the breakdown of the budget narrative so that you can see exactly each person and those costs affiliated with it. You'll also notice the second page, that's our in-kind allocation. So you can see the total in that dark green box there of the 20% that we're given from Slackers Parish School Board.
Michelle.
No, you're fine. No.
So you can see in the salaries, the numbers, I know that's kind of hard to read on that second page, but if you see like a number 7 or a number 5, those numbers match on page 1 so that you can see exactly who we're talking about and those expenses that we're covering. Plaquemines Parish School Board, we are very grateful. We get way beyond the 20%, right? If you start thinking about the classrooms and the electricity and the water and the maintenance and custodial staff and things of that nature, busing service, all of those things, but the federal government only mandates that we allocate the 20% specifically to what it is. Any questions about that?
No further questions? All right, put it to a vote. All in favor, signal by saying aye. Any opposed? Hearing none, the motion carries.
Discussion and appropriate action in regard to the approval of the 2023 Head Start self-assessment.
Make a motion.
I'll second. Jennifer. Shelley.
So this is one of the ways we get to improving our classrooms, right? This is how we initially came up with that 5-year grant and those goals. We have a parent committee that meets, and on that parent committee, we go through the monitoring protocols set forth for each department with the questions. And the parents then interview the staff, they interview the office staff, what they know about being a parent in Head Start, and they come to the table with us after hearing all of those answers and saying, well, we feel like you're strong here, but we have concerns around this area, how are we gonna get better there, right? The way it works within the 5-year grant is we use these concerns to allocate different money in different areas in that budget. Does that make sense? So if you look at the area of concern, number 2, the concern training and development are important. Can we do similar trainings at a lower cost? You'll see that reflected in our TNTA budget, and you're also going to see that reflected if you were to look at this year's budget and last year's budget compared. We took away some of those expenses because they weren't as needed, if that makes sense. And then we also, number 3, it says allocate more funding for recruiting children and staff. So you'll see in that budget narrative, we did put in the other category to where we were going to use some of our budget to do job fairs and recruit good teachers to go into our classrooms and to keep our teachers in our classrooms. And of course, to make sure that we're at full enrollment, using some of that money to say, hey, come and apply for Head Start, right? And see if we can get more families. So this self-assessment helps us create and add to goals as well as the budget here, if that makes sense. So it's clear. So this is where we start, and then it comes from here.
Well, my question is just, do we actually have a hard time attracting children to the program?
We do.
That's interesting.
So the biggest concern, especially since COVID, has been that not so many families want their children in the learning environment unless it's required to be in the learning environment. It's not required until kindergarten.
Mm-hmm.
And if they have grandparents or something that are keeping those children, why do I need to have them in school, right? So we're starting to twist our campaign a little bit. If you notice, like on LinkedIn and Facebook, we're now saying 90% of a child's brain is developed before the age of 5. Get your kid in, right?
That's why.
Like flipping, right? Like flipping that and showing why it's important to come into our programs.
Is there any kind of community outreaches anywhere, like to try and educate the parents about it, or
Like to come and register.
yeah?
So that's going to be our next focus. Yes. So we are now the Ready Start Network, right? And that's one of our big pillars of work. You're going to see us more in the community, right? So Mr. Russell and I will be building coalitions with business members, having meetings with people in the community, and start doing that community outreach to show everybody why we're so important and what we do every day. Yes, it's not required, but it's definitely a need.
You want me to do an add-on video? I'm serious.
That might help too.
I'm
testimonies are very good.
The day in the life.
The day
You know, what I go through with those 2 kids. I'm gonna do a video. You're welcome to post it. I'm serious, because it is not funny.
Structured versus unstructured.
What?
Right.
Ain't no structure in that house, I
Right.
promise you.
Yeah, that's why you
No.
promote them to go to structure.
I don't have the strength. I don't have the strength to do it. It's they gotta go.
So then I think too, like we haven't, speaking of structure, we haven't had structures in place, right? To help get more kids in school and provide them with that. So we've written the grant to where we're adding the 2 child care centers into our school systems down the road where they did not have any, and on the East Bank where they did not have any. So we're giving those more opportunities to have the structured environments where before we really haven't had that. So now more availability to access will help us grow this funding and grow these seats to where people go from this program to the next program to the next program.
And I feel like if once y'all really get a structure like it sounds, like reaching back out to us so that we can go into our communities and say, hey,
This
like
is how
we
you
know
can help.
in our districts where we should be hitting or could be hitting, that we could probably reach out and say, you know, this is what's available to you now.
The other issue with the Head Start funding specifically is that you have to have such a low income ratio in your family to be able to qualify for these seats in Head Start. It really is difficult. There's only 10 spots that we have district-wide that we can give to people who are over income.
Right.
And we also have a 10% disability requirement in that requirement as well. So making sure in that 10% of over income, I'm catching the children with disabilities, I'm catching the over income. But then I've got the 90% of the at-need families that are 130% or below over poverty level. And when you look at those numbers, it really is low. So then looking at that community assessment and saying, is that feasible, right? Where are those children at? Are those children throughout the parish? Are they mostly in this area or mostly in that area? And then growing the programs in those areas. It's a work in progress.
Any other discussion or questions?
I'd like to say that I really love that y'all are gonna be going and doing job fairs and trying to seek out new people to bring into the system. I think that's a great idea, and I think that's something that needs to be done.
Especially, it's hard to get children to teach little children, right? For the reason you said, right? Unless it's a structured environment, it can be really chaotic. And teaching those people how to do that is,
I'm coming to take the
it's
classes.
fun. It's fun, right? So having all of that in place, having the training in place, having the recruitment in place, making sure that everybody knows what they need to do. Thank you.
Are we ready for a vote? All right, we'll call for a vote. All in favor, signal by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none, the motion carries.
Discussion and appropriate action regarding the approval of 2023 Clackamas Parish Head Start Continuation Grant.
We need a motion.
No, it's
I'll make a motion.
I'll second.
Sorry, Paul.
No, you can have it.
Paul second.
So at the beginning of that 5-year grant, we start with a community assessment, and usually it's around census data, and obviously, you know, we haven't had a census in quite some time, so our community assessment hasn't really changed. But what we do know about living in the community is that we do have people moving into our community, especially in the lower end of our community. So creating more access points in that area may be something that once we start enrolling children in the 23-24 school year, then we map out where those classrooms need to be and where those children need to be serviced. We have 108 seats, but they can go anywhere. So what we did find with the information that we have is that we will likely keep our classrooms in the places that they are. And we don't have enough shift in population right now to warrant a move of a classroom.
Any discussion or questions? We'll call for a vote. All in favor, signal by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? Hearing none, the motion carries.
Discussion and appropriate action in regard to the approval of 2023-24 TTA plan. Ms. Sable.
I make a motion.
Thank you. I'll second.
Jumping in there. So our TNTA plan is our training and technical assistance plan. As you know, being the ever educator, I believe that we need a lot more than $14,927 in training and technical assistance in any entity, right? But the federal government mandates that they only want to know what I am doing with $14,927. So you will notice in this, I have a lot of free supports that we use to show that the federal government that we are fiscally responsible by grabbing those free resources and training in those areas, as well as the additional ones that you can note in the budget narrative that we know we need to pay for and do as well. We've had some shift in personnel in our office staff. Our URCIA manager has retired. Our bookkeeper, she's our URCIA manager, bookkeeper we talked about her Monday night. She's retired, and now we have a new person, so ensuring that we have all the training and support in place for her and making sure that she can do that role, especially stepping in on February 1st when the applications just opened February 1st. She's learning a lot really quick.
Any questions or discussion? We'll call for a vote. All in favor, signal by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none, the motion carries.
Discussion and appropriate action regarding the approval of the 2023-2024 selection criteria.
I'll make a motion. I'll second.
So speaking of that February application, it opened February 1st, and now we're taking in all these new applications, and at that time, we need to figure out who's eligible for the programs, do the income. We also interview every family, and in that interview, my new person will find out more information to where we can base points on a point system, the most needy families into the program. So between points and income, our child management system ranks the families for us according to the graph and chart that's in here. And it pretty much tells us these are the 108 kids you need to take in according to all the data that's in.
So you said you have a problem filling the seats, but is it just because there's not enough applicants, or is it because they're not meeting the requirements?
They're not meeting the income requirements.
And
They're
no matter what, you can only put 10%. Okay.
Or write a nothing grant to have a different funding source cover them, which
Okay.
we've done in the past too.
Okay. That's good to know.
We have birth to 3 funding that I wrote a grant for, and that's for infants, toddlers up to the age of 3, that we can put into a child care center and a type 3 center. So we can offer that to families as well. It may not be in our Head Start classroom in our school classrooms, but it would be a paid tuition in a child care center for
Would you
infants.
try to use that same kind of learning?
Yes, they all use the same curriculum we use. We have
Okay.
coaches that go into those child care
Okay.
centers. So at least we have options.
It's all the curriculum P.S.B.
Well, that's the assessment, yes,
Okay.
ma'am.
Any further questions or discussion? We'll call for a vote. All in favor, signal by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none, the motion carries.
Discussion and appropriate action in regard to the approval of the annual report.
Any motion? I'll second.
So when we submit the continuation grant, we have to do an annual report based off of our program information report that we complete annually. And that program information report is hundreds of questions the federal government asks about us and our program to give specific data around how many children applied, how many children qualified, how many children enrolled, how many children stayed more than 10 days, how many, what is that fluctuation of students in and out of your program, and all of the other things that are in this wonderful report. We have to gather all of that information from that child management system and put it together in this report and submit with our grant.
Any questions or discussion? I have a comment.
Yes.
I've had the pleasure of reading these reports every year, and I'm gonna say they're always in depth and answer pretty much all of my questions, and you obviously do a good job because you usually secure all of your grant funding. So thank you for being diligent in that work.
Thank you.
You're a great grant writer.
Thank you.
Any further discussion or questions? All right, we'll call for a vote. All in favor, signal by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none, the motion carries.
Information only, Head Start monthly budget.
So the accountant is giving you our monthly expenses for Head Start for you to look at. If you have any questions about any of those. We're getting toward the end. Maybe it was in the last.
What you looking for?
That was it.
2.09.
Oh, just it's not in. Just looking for. So you'll see our grant year ends. It's a different fiscal structure. We end at the end of May as opposed to the end of June and all the other grants. So you'll see we'll be closing out the next few months. You'll see a lot more expensive classroom materials and things of that nature to ramp up for August. You should have one report from our, I think it's the ARPA funding as well, that ends in March.
Yeah.
So we'll be finishing up those expenses this month as well.
Jamie, do you have all 3?
I did.
Okay, this doesn't require a vote. Does anybody need any more time to look over the report and ask questions? Okay, we'll move on to information items. Any information items?
I do have one. I wanted to share
Yes.
about the child care centers. So we have, every week, we're trying to meet together, my little office staff and I and Mr. Russell, to kind of make some decisions as we're moving on with these 2 new child care centers, one in Phoenix and one in South Pike Elementary. I gave you the meeting notes from when we got together so that you can keep up with that. This week, we are meeting with the playground contractor so that they can come out and give us some quotes on beginning playground structures at both of those locations. So I know, right? I'm so excited. We've also started ordering classroom materials and cribs and sheets and cots and, you know, all of those fun things and toys and things. So those orders are being placed this week as well. It's exciting to start, you know, putting your hands on things. We are going to rent a storage container and put that storage container at WCO so that we can house all of that, because the classroom space that they're going to be using have people in it right now. So our next step is going to be moving towards licensing and figuring out what we need to do for licensing. Where you guys are going to come in, I know you're going to start manning some phone calls, and I want to be able to kind of set you up on what to be able to say to people who might have some questions about it. We're going to start a big campaign push at the end of this week, and we're going to make the announcement publicly on social media to let everybody know that these centers are coming. As I said, in February, the enrollment started. We're going to ask these families if they're interested in coming to this child care center to go through that same application process, right? Give us income information and everything, because I've applied for funding to potentially make this child care at South Pike Elementary and Phoenix free, if I get the funding. Caveat, right? So to make sure that we're ready when that does come, we're gonna have all of our information ready to go, so we know right when we can start putting kids into programs, if it can be a paid slot, or if they will have to pay us tuition, because they might not meet the income requirements of those grants that are running for, if that makes sense, right?
So if they have to pay,
Yes.
we can pay, we can put them in, if, I'm paying, I don't care what I got to do. I'm just saying, if it's
Yes.
a paid slot, they can get in.
Yes, ma'am.
All right, that's all I need to know.
So the reason also that we need the applications to start coming in is so that right now we have one classroom space that is going to be split between infants and toddlers. So we need to know when we set up that space, how many infants are gonna be in there, how many toddlers are gonna be here. We're gonna set up to buy the materials that it needs, but I need the people to start applying, right?
How many can you take?
So licensing hasn't come out, but the exact same classroom, I am licensed for 27 children in Phoenix. Infants and toddler ratios are a little bit different than 3 and 4-year-olds. So instead of it being 27 children that I can take in that classroom, I might be able to take 15 kids in that classroom, right? So next steps, a lot of people are asking, can I work there? We don't know yet, right? So our next step in the next week or so, Mr. Russell and I are going to get together with the finance department and maybe HR and find out labor laws so we can figure out, okay, if we have this many children, how many hours can that person work, and then how many people are we going to need to work every single day? How many people will we potentially need to hire? What is that cost going to cost us? That sustainability needs to begin planning, right?
What's the time?
Then what do we charge and things of that nature.
What will be the time?
So right now we're starting small, and we're going to go by school hours, and we're going to go by school holidays. So we're not going to be a 12-month childcare system. We're going to go by the school calendar to start, and then we'll see where we can go. And is it sustainable for us to add more time and more people, right? And open for holidays or things like that. But right now, just kind of starting small enrollment, small hours, small locations.
So are you gonna
work
base their cost on their income, or is that your hope, or is it gonna be like a set cost, or if you're below poverty and you get that grant, then that would be something different?
So right now, the thought is if we get the grant, that's gonna cover the cost of that child, right? And then the grant will tell me how much those people get are covered each month. They can also apply for child care assistance, CCAP, right? So in the application for CCAP, the problem though is it takes the state of Louisiana 6 to 9 months to review, right? So I want to make sure that we have a grant in place to sustain those families until they start getting that money. And then once they can switch over to that money, then it's paid for. Does that make sense?
Okay, this, I start applying for that now.
CCAP, absolutely.
That's, yep, that was,
What if you have to pay 100% out of pocket? What's the cost?
We don't know yet. That's why I'm saying our next step is we have to plan that out. We have to see, okay, if I run this center every day and it takes X number of adults with an hourly wage or benefits or whatever we decide to pay, how much is that going to cost me? And then initially, and then obviously, what is that in turn going to cost the families? We don't want to make profit, right? We just want to cut even, but we want to be able to at least sustain our personnel.
And
So that's coming.
when the center's all set up, can we go tour this one? Just see what it looks like all put
I
together.
cannot wait. Like I'm envisioning ribbon cutting ceremonies.
Oh,
and
that
things
would be
of-
fun.
I had a
and
dream
things
about that
of
last night. I
You
swear.
know,
I had a
me. I'm
dream
gonna
about
have
that last
balloons.
night.
I'm gonna have ribbons.
I had
And all the
a dream. I
things,
was like,
right?
I don't know why I dreamed about that
I'll
last
dress up
night.
as a- I'll dress up as a
I can see you
mascot.
too.
Yes, that's what I was saying. I'll buy you a big apple costume, and you can wear the apple.
I just won't use the ruler.
So what we are doing, and that Mr. Russo and I will probably invite you to, is March 8th. We'll be at South Plaquemines Elementary for a big push in the
I'll
helmets.
be here.
Oh, yeah, we will.
Ah, okay, well, that date didn't work out. But then at Phoenix, we will be March 30th, will be our enrollment date that day.
We won't be here.
Oh my gosh.
right?
Y'all have
That's
another
special.
conference?
Yeah. 31st, yeah,
That's
the
the
31st special.
Oh, it's 30.
Oh, the 31st is
Oh,
special.
sorry.
That's
What's
the
the
conference.
31st?
We leave to go to the conference.
And the 8th, y'all are at a conference too? Darn it.
Trying to teach us
Okay,
some
well, look, we're gonna FaceTime, we're gonna Facebook Live,
Yeah.
so that y'all can join us.
Yeah, let's do
But we're
that.
gonna do a big push, we're gonna do, we're kinda envisioning like a podium outside the school,
stuff.
inviting
Because if
people.
we-
Not a ribbon cutting, but just a big announcement for that school and the center coming, so that we can start getting people to apply and get a big push. But you'll start seeing a lot of that on social media. I'm already manning some of those behind the scenes. People are messaging me and I'm trying to get out information. But a lot of it is in planning phases, right? So we don't know how many people we have to hire. We don't know the costs. We're not gonna know until April if Bessie's gonna approve these grants that I've asked for. So a
Is there an
lot,
application cutoff?
no,
Oh,
they're always open. I never turn them off. It's an online application that just runs annual and you roll one.
Can you send us the link for the online application? So I'm sure once you start making it public, people are gonna ask this for
It's on the,
It's-
it's on the thing.
It's on the school website.
Oh, okay.
So if you just Google P.P.S.B. Early Childhood, I think it's just like
Patricia, I know I've seen this structure already somewhere, but is each center gonna have its own director?
yes, that's
I had a young lady inquire today at the courthouse. She's a teacher in St. Bernard Parish, but she lives in Great Wake. And we were talking, and I had told her about this thing that was coming up because she has 2 little kids as well. And she said, "Oh, are they hiring?" I'm like, "I don't know." But... And so she
coming
asked
soon.
specifically about a director's position. So
But that station.
it absolutely
I told her
was.
about it. We talked about that already.
It absolutely was.
I already knew who it was. We talked about it.
Well, there you go. So let her know, yes.
So we don't know how that's, each one of those centers will have to have a director in place because we need somebody, we cannot have the principals take on substitute issues. We cannot take any of the, we can't take the principal away from their work. So yes, we'll have a director.
Yeah, I didn't know if that like you were gonna have one director sharing both
Not with a
facilities.
ferry in the middle.
Yeah, absolutely agree.
Not even, I can't ask that person, that would be tough. They would spend more time in the ferry line than at a center, right? So we're just trying everything we can to set up for success. So you'll be getting these reports as we have more information. We'll just keep sending those to you so you can kind of keep up with it and man any of those. But if you have any questions or need anything around that, just let me know.
The other question is, where do people apply for this CCAP at?
That's on my website. That's on the early childhood website. We have a link.
Is that Office of Family Services?
It's DCFS.
Yes, that's it.
I thought it was
Department of
You
Family.
have to go to DCFS. DCFS. Yeah.
Okay.
Too many initials.
Because I'm already pushing
But there's a
people
link
your
on
way.
our website to get to.
I'm already spread some buzz and stuff like so.
Okay,
I got people asking questions, like, I don't know, I'll get some answers for you, I'll let you know.
Have them like our Facebook page.
So, what I'm gonna tell them is, I don't know, go see Miss Patricia on March 8th at South Plaquemines Elementary.
That's right. Perfect.
Any other information items? Okay, we'll move to item number 4, the next meeting info. Monday, March 13th, 2023 at 6 p.m. at Boothville Venice Elementary School, we'll have a regular school board meeting. Item number 5, we'll call for an adjournment.
Motion to adjourn, Madam President.
I'll second.
Okay, we'll call for a vote. All in favor, signal by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? Hearing none. The meeting is adjourned at 7:09 p.m.
Comments?